What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gage Dillon and you have no idea how good it feels to finally be saying that again. It has felt so long since I've been able to sit down and talk to you guys about horror movies, and it feels so good to be back. There was a lot of things that I had to get taken care of. There were just a lot of things that were calling my attention, and I had to unfortunately put a pause on the channel. There were a lot of different things and changes going on in the last few months that unfortunately pulled my attention away completely from being able to film with you guys, but now I am fortunately able to be back with you and start filming hopefully every other week. So with that all being said, let's go ahead and get right into the video. I'm really excited to do this one with you guys because it has been an awesome year for horror, and while I wasn't able to watch every single movie that came out this year, I was able to catch quite a bit. For those of you that stayed sub throughout my hiatus, thank you guys so much for the support on this channel, and I am so happy to be back with you guys. So with that all being said, let's get into the actual video. So as you all know, 2023 was an awesome year for horror, and today I'm going to be ranking all of the movies that I was able to see this year in a tier list. I'm really excited to do this because it was a great year for horror. We got a bunch of different types of movies, from reboots to sequels to original movies. We had a lot of stuff to enjoy. So I'm gonna be doing it in one of those tier list rankings. I've never done one of these before, so you'll have to bear with me because, all right, let's see. Okay. So this is my first time ever using one of the screen recording thingamajigs on the laptop. I don't know much about it. My boyfriend set it up for me. So I'm just gonna hit this so that way you guys can see the screen with me. So hopefully you guys can see it now. All right, I've got it set up into 5 different categories. Starting with the top, I have Take My Money Now. Then we have Bloody Good Time, followed by Kills 2 Hours, then Memorable Enough, and finally Dumpster Fire. So basically these categories speak for themselves, obviously. I'll explain it a little bit more depending on the movie, but yeah, with that all being said, let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so again, I wasn't able to catch every single movie that came out this year. I was able to narrow it down to, like I said, 25. All right, so I've got all of the titles loaded now. It's actually 26, not 25 movies, and they are in no particular order. So we're just gonna go ahead and get started with the first one right here. We have Thanksgiving, the Eli Roth slasher movie that was based off of his Grindhouse trailer, I think from way back when. I'm gonna put this one in Dumpster Fire. I feel like that's gonna be a little bit of a controversial opinion just because I saw a lot of people raving about it and hyping it up, and that it was like the new holiday slasher and whatever. But it really, it was very flat. Patrick Dempsey was pretty cool in it. Oh, by the way, this video will have spoilers in it, just a heads up. Probably should have told you that earlier. But yeah, I thought Patrick Dempsey was cool, fine enough as the killer. The teens in the movie didn't really do much. Addison Rae was the only person I recognized, so that's saying something, I guess. There was really no tension within the movie. The killer had maybe a few chase scenes, and there was maybe 1 or 2 good kills, average at best. For the overall movie. Glad that I didn't watch the trailer, because had I watched the trailer, I probably would have not watched the movie, just because it gave away literally every single death. And not the Eli Roth trailer, I mean the actual 2023 trailer. You know what I mean. Bottom line, if you like slasher movies that have a whodunit vibe and are basically like Scream and holiday themed, I'd say go for this one. But the cheesy deaths and the really unlikable flat characters and overall just kind of dull feel of the film really just put it at the bottom for me. So moving on to, yet another holiday themed slasher, we have It's a Wonderful Knife. This one I'm gonna put, I'll probably put it in Memorable Enough, just because that one, it wasn't great, don't get me wrong, but it was fine. I mean, it was from the writers of Freaky and I think Totally Killer, so it had the same vibe, I guess, somewhere here and there. You could definitely tell that it's the same writers from Freaky and Happy Death Day and whatever, but the vibe seems to not be as strong here. The film is, again, I hate using that word, dull. It doesn't really do much with the It's a Wonderful Life premise that the movie is basing itself off of. She kind of just wishes that she was never born. Doesn't really say that specifically either, and it just kind of happens, and then you get the movie going from there after the opening kill, which reveals the killer, so tension's kind of lost throughout the movie. And they do kind of try to make it up with a twist whenever they unmask the killer in the other universe, but I mean, at that point you kind of just stop caring because the whole world that the movie's in is just kind of, again, very dull, and just that it doesn't do much to set itself apart from whodunit slashers that already exist and are better in a way. So unfortunately, it wasn't great. It was memorable for some of the characters being likable and being able to latch onto, and Justin Long being the killer was fine. It was definitely predictable, but it seems like he knew what movie he was in given his like really goofy, creepy performance. They gave him veneers and seemed to highlight his hair. It was awful. He was great though. He definitely understood the assignment, and he was probably the most enjoyable part of the movie for me, alongside Catherine Isabel as the main character's lesbian, and I thought she was really great too in the scenes that she got. So likable characters here and there, some great kills and an interesting concept, but just not enough to set itself apart from other movies that already exist like it. All right, so next we have The Blackening. Now, this movie, I don't know if I would consider it, I don't really consider it a horror comedy because it's really not scary at all. It seems like it's just outwardly making fun of it, which I mean, I guess is the point. So I'm still gonna include it anyway because it knows what it's making fun of and does it really well. I'm gonna put it in bloody good time. It is so fun to see these characters very self-aware about the character stereotypes that they're playing and actively go against them. It is such a fun time with this movie. You have really likable characters, some pretty suspenseful chase scenes when you get them. Not necessarily scary, but it can have you on the edge of your seat. It did have a great, somewhat, if predictable reveal. I feel like that was maybe kind of the point, but overall, this movie was really enjoyable and just a really fun time. It'll definitely be a movie that I watch every year around Halloween time. All right, so speaking of Halloween, a movie that came out pretty close to Halloween this year is the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. I'm gonna put that one in Kills 2 Hours. Now, my boyfriend did not like this movie. I was really shocked because I really enjoyed it. It wasn't scary at all, of course. I mean, it's PG-13, it's for kids, based off a kid's game. It was really cool to see the characters from the video games come to life. I had never played the games before whenever I was growing up, but the week before the movie came out, my boyfriend showed me all the games and everything leading up to it, so I was ready for this movie, and I went into it with some pretty higher standards than I probably should have, and I just enjoyed the hell out of it. Not necessarily a bloody good time movie because it isn't great. It is a pretty paint by the numbers type of movie, for tweens or people that aren't really into super hardcore horror. I really enjoyed it. Matthew Lillard was great. I love that they gave him a classic whodunit killer reveal type of moment. We didn't get one of those in the original Scream, but here he actually got to unmask himself, even did the whole Ghostface knife wipe reference thing. That was pretty cool. Josh Hutcherson did really well. I don't remember him in anything other than like The Hunger Games, Bridge to Terabithia, and that one weird horror movie, Detention. So it was really interesting to see him here also with, I forget her name, I think it's Elizabeth Law, I'm gonna butcher that name. Guinevere Beck from You. It was nice to see her too here. All of these characters were really great. Overall, this is a really great movie if you're not super big into horror, or if you're trying to get your younger teens into horror. This would definitely be probably one of the best movies to ease them into it. All right, so coming in next, we have Megan. Again, I don't know if people would consider this necessarily a horror movie, maybe sci-fi thriller, but I consider it horror since that's how it was marketed. I'm gonna put that one in bloody good time. I thought it was a really great experience. I thought it was a pretty fun movie. I really enjoyed Allison Williams' performance, last seen in Get Out for me. She was really great here. I really enjoyed the aspects that they utilized with Megan, all of the features that she used against them. It was really cool to see this doll start from basic AI and grow into something much bigger. It was in a way very unsettling, especially when she starts to go after kids and animals and whatever. It's definitely off-putting, so it really does utilize its idea very well. I've watched this movie more than once and it's always very enjoyable, so I would definitely put this one in bloody good time. It was a really fun time and I'm actually excited for Megan too, so hopefully it lives up to the first one. So moving on to the next movie, we have Exorcist Believer. I'm gonna put that one in dumpster fire. I don't need to go into too much detail with you guys. This movie was ass. When I saw the trailer, I had like somewhat of like an idea of how this movie was gonna play out. It looked very like shockingly similar to Halloween Ends trailer in a way for me. I don't know how to explain it. Just like the whole vibe I just got from this movie was that it was gonna suck, and it did. The characters just dull, empty, just don't act like real human beings at all. Just very weird. Ellen Burstyn shoehorned in, everyone already knows this. Just really soulless movie, cash grab, you can see from a mile away. Avoid this one, it is not worth your time. All right, next we have Cobweb. I'm gonna put that one in bloody good time. This one was really creepy to me. I loved seeing Lizzie Kaplan in a horror movie. Last time I saw her in any kind of horror movie was Quarantine. Before that, Mean Girls. So it was really interesting to see her in a role like this. I thought that the movie was great. It had some really creepy moments, lots of tension, really good idea. And the ending, which I saw a few people complain about, I was actually pretty pleased with the ending. I thought it wrapped the movie up pretty nicely, leaving it on that note. So yeah, I would say that this one's definitely a bloody good time. Overall, really creepy movie, interesting idea, and felt somewhat original compared to the types of movies that we've been given lately. I really enjoyed this one. All right, so coming in next, again, this movie, I'm not sure how much you can count it as a horror movie, but I consider the situation of it scary. Box Barcelona. I'm gonna put that one in memorable enough. This one was fine. It was memorable enough. So this category, while I say memorable enough, that doesn't necessarily mean it's memorable in a good way. I remember this movie being incredibly frustrating with its characters' decisions and its direction. It was just very tedious and I felt like it was a little bit too long. The location change was an interesting idea. I like that it took place in a different part of the world to show how things played out in a different country. That was a very interesting concept. I like that a lot, but for the most part, it's pretty much the same thing, just with some newer, different, sometimes weird ideas that it doesn't always follow up on. So I would say that this one's fine for the most part, but it's not necessarily must-see, so there's that. All right, coming in, Evil Dead Rise. Ooh. So my opinions changed on this movie. I remember that at the beginning of the year, I probably would have put this one in bloody good time, but I'm gonna put this one in kills 2 hours. All right, so backstory, before I watched Evil Dead Rise, the only Evil Dead movie that I had currently seen before that was the 2013 one. So I knew nothing else about the other movies until after I'd watched Evil Dead Rise. So for the most part, I enjoyed Evil Dead Rise on its first run. I thought the characters were great. I liked Beth a lot. I thought that the effects were cool. I thought that it had an overall really fun tone while also having some really great scares. However, it really pales in comparison to the sequels. Now, that's not to diminish the movie's overall quality and value. I think that this is a very well-made horror movie. However, when comparing it to what came beforehand, especially Army of Darkness, which got so creative and cool and everything, just exploring that idea. So to see those movies after, it does make the new one pale a little bit in comparison. Even the 2013 one, when you talk about gore and actual disturbing imagery, the 2013 one I feel has this one beat, but overall a very fun movie. I would say Rises, it's not bad, or like, I wouldn't even say it's like mediocre or average. I would say that this one's a very good movie. It just feels like it held back a little bit on the horror. And yes, I do realize that there were scalpings and decapitations and what have you in this movie, but I feel like 2013 and sometimes even the original goes into a very disturbing and scary direction that Rise just overall didn't really touch on, but it was still at the very least a very fun movie that could kill 2 hours if you needed to. Okay, so coming in next, we have Saw 10. Now, interestingly enough, I did not actually watch any Saw movie prior to watching Saw 10. I went in completely blind to the franchise. I had no idea who Hoffman was, or Amanda, or what was that other name that kept popping up? Logan, I don't know. All these names and different things, like, they came together after I saw the movie, so it was really interesting to see how all of these movies led up to Saw 10, and then finding out where Saw 10 fits into that chronology. I thought that was really cool, and this franchise has done a lot of interesting things with its movies. So for Saw 10, I would have to say that this one is probably gonna go in bloody good time. It was a very good movie, especially compared to what I had previously heard about Saw movies, that it was just torture porn, that it was the same thing over and over, just really negative comments. I'm glad that I didn't let any of that sway me to not see Saw 10. I thought that the performances were great. I thought that the traps were very well done. And I found this movie somewhat very emotional for a horror movie. Whenever you find out that John has cancer and his moments with Amanda, you can definitely feel for these characters and feel that even a serial killer has his own type of, morality to deal with. And it's really shown very well with Amanda in a specific scene in between the traps. I thought that in a way it humanized them very well, and again, for serial killers, it's very good character development, especially being the 10th movie in a Saw movie. To still be able to give those characters development and just really flesh them out even more does the movie a very good service and makes you care about these characters. Not so much for the victims. They're trash that scammed John out of his cancer treatments, which didn't exist in the first place, so you really enjoy these characters getting fucked up by John, and you can definitely enjoy the chemistry from John and Amanda, especially now after watching all of the movies after Saw 10. I can definitely say that this movie really did a nice job on their characters, and I can't wait to see what's next. Okay, coming in, another horror comedy we have here is Renfield. I'm gonna say that this one is take my money now because I've rewatched this movie over and over. I loved Nicolas Cage and Nicholas Hoult in this movie. I thought that they played off of each other very well when they had the opportunities to. Very funny. Awkwafina was great in it. It had really fun, over-the-top gore effects. I thought that was really cool. Loved the characters, all just very fun and entertaining. The only regret that I have is that I didn't watch this movie in theaters. I unfortunately wasn't able to catch it in time, but if I had the chance to, I would gladly pay to go see it in theaters because it is a fun time every single time I see this movie. Highly recommend. All right, wish I could say the same about the next movie. Coming in next is Insidious: The Red Door, and I'm gonna put this one in dumpster fire. All right, so for the Insidious movies, I like the first two in a different way compared to the third movie is the best way I could describe it. 4 and 5 are not my cup of tea. The trilogy as a whole, like I said, I enjoy just the first two in a different way compared to the third movie. Again, if that makes sense. 4 it didn't feel like a horror movie, felt more of like a detective type of story, but paranormal is the best way I could describe it. It was fine, but overall it just didn't really do it for me. With this one, it tries to go back to the Lamberts from the first two movies, so that should be a good thing, going back to its roots. And wow, it did not. This movie was really bad. The direction of the movie was very confusing, very slow pace. The characters didn't feel like themselves anymore. You really kind of just start off on a very dour note with the grandma, Josh's mom, dying from the first two movies. She dies in this one, well, off screen. They're at her funeral. Parents are divorced. The dad doesn't have the greatest relationship with the kids. It's just not a very fun note to start the movie off on. And while the college setting does seem to pick up the movie a little bit, especially with Dalton's friend Chris, there is some lightheartedness here and there, but overall the movie just feels kind of bleak. And it kind of just touches on things that we already know as the audience, but the characters don't, so it feels tedious to just get through the movie with very few scares that feel uninspired. And unfortunately, even the main demon, red face, lipstick face, whatever, he's not utilized at all very much. Like, he's shown mainly towards the end. And in the first movie, the appeal to his character, in my opinion, was that they didn't show a lot of him on screen. They did whenever they needed to, in really great, creepy ways. In this one, he just kind of pops up here and there, and he just the movie kind of hopes that you're remembering how the first movie was to, I guess, get somewhat of an enjoyment of his return in the fifth movie. I don't know. I didn't enjoy it. He didn't really do much of anything. He possessed Dalton for maybe like 5 minutes, and just overall the movie felt soulless, and I just would skip it, and that's that. So moving on, The Boogeyman. I did not appreciate this movie enough when I saw it in theaters. Upon rewatching it when it came out on Hulu, I would put this one in Kills 2 hours. It's a simple enough story. Sophie Thatcher is great in it. I thought that the monster design was very interesting and pretty creepy for the most part, especially when it's in the dark. And while a lot of people weren't happy with the PG-13 rating, I would say that it really didn't hurt the movie at all, in my opinion. I enjoyed this one just as much as I would have enjoyed The Conjuring, for example. It was a pretty average movie, not like over the top great or anything, but definitely not as weak as I had originally thought it was when I first saw it in theaters. So I would say if you haven't watched it, definitely give it a watch, especially if you have a fear of the boogeyman. This one could do it for you. But okay, now following that, we have VHS 85, and this one, it pains me to say, is in dumpster fire. The first two movies I say were probably the best and the only like watchable ones in full for the most part. Viral didn't really have any great segments that I can think of. 99 and 94 had like a handful of segments that were great, or good, I guess, like the coffin one, the one that took place in a funeral home. Those were fine, but for the most part, they were just kind of dumb. I'd say like the concepts weren't even scary. They were just kind of stupid and like outlandish for the sake of being outlandish, especially 85. So this movie just was really bad. I don't really have much to say about it other than that it was bad, and Scott Derrickson's segment towards the end was the only one that was, pretty fine, but overall it didn't save this movie in any way, and I would say that it rightfully sits at the very bottom. So all right, coming in next we have No One Will Save You. So I'm gonna put this one and take my money now. I thought this one was a really interesting idea, and I thought that it was really cool that there was no dialogue in the movie. Doesn't take a lot to surprise me, but I thought that it was really different compared to other horror movies that we've gotten in the past few years. Not sure that this is really like defined as like a full-on horror movie, it's sci-fi, thriller, and whatever, but Caitlin Dever did a great job in this. I had only previously seen her in Booksmart and Last Man Standing, so to see her in a horror movie going against extraterrestrials, it was really cool. She didn't even have to speak at all. Like I said, this movie had no dialogue. Her acting with her face said it all. It was a really good performance on her end, and I think that this movie is really worth checking out. I would definitely want to see what it's like to watch it in a theater. It's great that it's on Hulu. I've rewatched it a few times, and if you haven't checked it out, I would highly recommend it. Or if you are into aliens and extraterrestrials and stuff like that, definitely check it out. It's a really cool time. Coming in next, we have The Haunting in Venice. Is it The Haunting in... I can't see. The screen is really small. I'm gonna say it's The Haunting in Venice. I don't know if that's like the actual title. I just see like the small square of it. Either way, I'm gonna put this one and take my money now. I thought this one was great. It is the third movie in the Murder on the Orient Express, Death on the Nile trilogy. This is the third movie in it, and I think that this one is the best. I liked how it had Michelle Yeoh in it. It had a great supernatural twist to it that you might not expect coming. Really great performances. Tina Fey was great in it. Poirot was great as usual. This movie is a very well-made whodunit. So I would say if you enjoyed the previous two Agatha Christie-inspired movies, you're gonna enjoy this one too. Okay, great. Coming in, we have another dumpster fire, The Nun II. I don't even need to go into detail with this one. The same shit from the first movie, just amplified, and not in a good way. Just the jump scares were unnecessary and meaningless. The characters made dumb decisions. Jump scares and scares that made no sense, that were probably just filmed for the trailer. Just really like nothing to say. I mean, Tasa Farmiga does great with what she's given as usual. The nun was scary, creepy in some lights, I guess. But again, this movie, it's the same thing again that you expect from the Conjuring universe. did not try anything new, deserves to be in dumpster fire. Coming in next, The Book Club. Memorable enough, and not in a good way. This movie was so weirdly bad, but like enjoyable at the same time. I knew that once the character, like one of them died off screen, that they were gonna be the killer, and I was right. It did try to set itself apart somewhat from Scream by like making weird, like random decisions in between scenes that happened like almost verbatim in Scream, specifically Scream 5. This movie like did quite a few things that Scream 5 did. Like, it is shocking like how similar these two are. But yeah, this movie, it was also in Spanish. I watched it on Netflix with subtitles. It was very, very run-of-the-mill slasher, but the things that are memorable about it are not good. The weird random scenes included in the movie, the killer reveals being like almost an over-the-top version of Scream 5's reveals, that ending that made absolutely no sense with the girl who was set on fire, like Amber, coming back for the main girl. Felt very I Know What You Did Last Summer, if you get what I mean. Not in a good way, so we're gonna leave it on that note. Coming in next, Totally Killer, a movie that I also wish was in theaters. I really enjoyed this one. I adore Julie Bowen, so to see her as the opening kill broke my heart because she is the definitive mom from Modern Family. I thought she did a really great job with the screen time that she was given. Her opening kill was great. She was badass in fighting the killer. However, it's not enough, and from the opening kill with Julie Bowen, you have her daughter, played by Kiernan Shipka, who goes back in time to save her by integrating herself into her mom's friend group and trying to figure out the killer that way. Back in the day, this movie was trying to catch the killer that way and also get back home. So you basically have Happy Death Day and Freaky and like Back to the Future all in one here. It wasn't as strong of a killer reveal, I will say. The comedy was great though, the chases were great. Whenever the movie wanted to get serious, it definitely did. So I would say it did its job very well as a, whodunit slasher. I think it should have been in theaters because it was very well done. It was filmed really well, and it was a really enjoyable time. So I'm definitely curious what it would have been like to see it in a theater. But coming in next, we have Infinity Pool. I'm gonna put this one in Bloody Good Time. Yeah, I would put this one in Bloody Good Time. Besides the sometimes very weird over the top sexual sequences, or the adult breastfeeding scene, I think that this movie was really well done. I think it wasn't so much as scary as just very disturbing and off-putting, and it was definitely something new and original. Definitely something that I haven't seen in a while, or really just in general. So it was definitely a really good time. I'm remembering things from this movie now. So it was definitely an interesting concept with cloning and, all of the other things that went on. I don't know how much I can say given the film's content. So I'll just leave it at that. It was a bloody good time, and given the sometimes over the top sexual sequences, it may not be for everybody. I know I didn't really enjoy those parts for sure, but it's David Cronenberg, so. All right, coming in next, we have Talk to Me. I'm gonna put this one in Take My Money Now, because initially I wasn't that appreciative of this movie. I thought it was pretty much seen it all before, but after being able to rewatch it and actually rewatching it in theaters, I think that it did its job very well as a seance gone wrong movie. I thought that while being low budget and having a fairly simple premise and approach, it did its job very well. There are some very disturbing scenes here. Sophie Wilde does a great job as the main character. It is a very off-putting movie. There's comedy here and there, but for the most part, it's a straightforward horror movie. It pulls no punches quite a bit of the time. It has very, very dark elements that it deals with, and it pulls it all together very effectively in the end, and I gotta give it a lot of credit for that. So this is definitely a movie that if I got the chance to, I would definitely see it again in a theater. But coming in next, we have a movie that I could not feel any more different about, and that is Scream 6. I'm gonna put this one in, should I put it in? I'm gonna put it in Memorable Enough, and again, that's just because this movie, and it pains me to say, unfortunately, I feel like they should just stop making Scream movies. I was not a fan of the fifth movie. As some of you guys may know, I put it at the very bottom of my ranking in a past video that I did. This movie was just very, it wasn't even really a slasher movie. I mean, I guess technically, theoretically, but like no one really like important died. People got stabbed and like slashed a bunch of times and lived miraculously. It felt like it wanted to be a slasher movie, but it also didn't. Sydney's absence was definitely missed. It wasn't the worst thing about the movie, which, yeah, Gail was fine in it, if not like worse, because her character completely backslid into the way she was. That was whatever. The main characters are basically like made of steel, since they can get stabbed like 10 times and be perfectly fine. I don't really have much to say about this movie other than that it's very unfortunate that Melissa Barrera is not going to be involved along with Jenna Ortega. So yeah, I think they should have stopped at 4. Moving on, we have Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. It's a dumpster fire, guys. Don't do it. Coming in next, we have Skinamarink. I think I said it right that time. All right. Anyways, again, dumpster fire. I get what you were going for. Like, I get it. I just didn't like it. Coming in next, Play Dead. It was memorable enough, however, it just really, it just made so many frustrating decisions. A lot of like, just things that like no human would like ever do, like ever. So the situations that they're in, they put themselves in, and it's hard to feel bad for them. Jerry O'Connell does what he can with this movie, along with Bailey Madison, but overall this movie is memorable for being kind of just like a shell of what it could have been. But yeah, that's Play Dead for you. All right, and now the last movie that I have on my list for 2023 is The Pope's Exorcist. I'm gonna put that one in a bloody good time. Russell Crowe did an awesome job. This was a movie that very well could have been a lot worse, given that it could have been over the top serious. You know, it could have taken itself too seriously and been very bleak and dull and try to recreate all the other Exorcist and possession movies that came before it, but luckily it doesn't. It has a lot of fun with it, and I think Russell Crowe was great for the role. So if you're into possession movies and are looking for something that's not super serious, but more of just like a fun time, The Pope's Exorcist is definitely gonna do it for you. All right, guys, well, that is it. Those are all 26 horror movies that I was able to check out this year and rank in tier list form for you. Again, I feel like I missed quite a few horror movies since this is only 26 movies and it's the end of 2023. I feel like I should have more. So definitely let me know down in the comments below if I missed any movies that you think I should see. I am extremely down to check them out. But with that all being said, that pretty much wraps up this video, guys. I really appreciate all the support that you guys have given me and have stuck with me throughout this hiatus, but now I'm back and I'm gonna be able to make so many more videos for y'all. So definitely in the comments below, let me know, or on my community post that I'll put somewhere here, definitely let me know any ideas that you guys have for me to do in the future. I would really be down to see what ideas you guys got. Again, guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.